Hey guys, really short video today just on what we're using for church history in our morning time this year, and I would love to hear about any other resources that we should be incorporating. This year we are going to be focusing on ancient history. We are going to be loosely following Classical Conversations Cycle 1. We are not doing Classical Conversations in Community for Foundations this year. We did last year. This year we are only doing Essentials in Community, and so we're going to be loosely following Cycle 1 foundation memory work at home. So I'm going to be kind of trying to coordinate a lot of our read-alouds and things to that. And I would love to hear any of your Cycle 1 or ancient history resource recommendations in the comments below. But for morning time, what we have been doing is Trial and Triumph, Stories from Church History. If you're not familiar with this book, it's by Richard M. Hanula, and he says, I love how he puts this in his introductions, for Christians this book is a family history. And he talks about how these are our sisters and brothers in the faith who have had these martyrdoms, who have had these struggles and these trials and triumphs. It's in the title. So he starts out with the early church. Polycarp, Blandina, Constantine, Athanasius, Ambrose. And then as he continues, it's very chronological. So Francis of Assisi. Now he is writing from a Protestant Reformed perspective. I can say that word, I promise. So if you are someone who does morning time and you're a Catholic, this may not be a very helpful resource for you to use in your morning time. You may not mesh well with it. He's talking about, in the later half, Martin Luther, Tyndale, Calvin, Anne Askew, Latimer, Ridley, Cranmer, John Knox. Really, really good historical. John Wesley, Hudson Taylor, Spurgeon, Macon, Lewis, Wurmbrand. It's really solid and it's really easy to use. The chapters are really good read aloud length. So Boniface, missionary to the Germans, you can pretty easily sit down and read this without it taking up a huge chunk of time. So I really love it. That's what we're using right now. That's how much progress we made over the summer. The next resource we're going to be using when we're done with that is Radiant, 50 Remarkable Women in Church History. So this is by the same author, Richard M. Hanula, and I actually didn't know that he had written any other books until recently, and I ran into this at the book table and I was excited. So yeah, it's got a whole bunch of different, it's got Corrie ten Boom, it has Edith Schaeffer, it has a whole bunch of women that I have never heard of. I am really excited to jump into this. Sarah Edwards. I'm excited. So that's what we're going to use next when we finish Trial and Triumph. And so these two, we just started morning time. So that's going to be kind of the sum total of what we've been using for church history. I do think church history is super important as a subset of history, which is also really a priority to us in our homeschooling and in our morning time. So one thing that I love to do is when we're reading in Trial and Triumph, sometimes he mentions someone who sang a hymn or wrote a hymn, or it just ties in well with a particular hymn. So what we do in our morning time is we start with catechism, and then we do a book called The Christian Almanac, which has kind of this day in history stuff, really fun. Then we go on to the Bible, Trial and Triumph, or after that, Radiant, when we're done with that. And then we just sing, 2, 3, 4 hymns. Sometimes people have requests, sometimes it gets really drug on. So we'll do those hymns, but if there's a tie-in, it's really fun to pull that out. So just a tip for if you haven't done hymns in your morning time yet and you're not sure where to begin, it's okay not to pre-plan it. You can just jump into it from there. So let me know in the comments what your church history recommendations are for morning time or just in general. Would love to hear it. Thanks.